This is TWiT.
In broad strokes, here's what happened. They took the iPhone 10 of last year, and they did two things to it. They gave it the nominal incremental upgrade that we often see in an off year, with matching the same prices and keeping the same like sort of prestigious surgical stainless steel, as was said during the keynote, and the wonderful OLED display, screen to screen, and upgraded the processor and all this sort of stuff, that was nice. It's also they also added a new, in addition to the 5.8-inch screen display that has on the regular iPhone XS, S, so we don't say XS. 5.8-inch.
I think that they
2.
I think they want you to say 10s.
Yeah, I see. I see. Apple's. Let's have a sidebar here. I think Apple has lost its product naming mojo. I mean, I think we're all old enough to remember the day when it was possible to buy a Macintosh Centris XL 747. And you have these. That's different from the 745 because the 747 was a label exactly for the Sears stores, and the 746 is the one that was available at Office Max. And so now we're dealing with. We got the XS, which is the super expensive. That's how I'm remembering it. It's the XS, super expensive. That's the $999 phone. They have added the 6.5-inch XS Max that does not roll off the tongue. I will tell you that. And now the top price. In addition, one of the many features in a very long and technical rollout of this device during the keynote of the new A12 Bionic processor is that now this can address a whopping 512 gigabytes of storage. So if you want to get the largest amount of money, if you're really just there to make sure that by the end of the year you've spent as much of your expense account as you possibly can before it rolls over, you can buy a 512 gigabyte iPhone XS Max for $1,449. If you're going to cheap out, the XR, the smaller version will max out at $1,299. But so you got the XS, the XS Max. Underneath that is the quote unquote budget version of this, the XR. Which they cut a few corners. Instead of getting stainless steel, you get aluminum. Instead of getting an OLED screen, you get a LED display. But this is Apple, so they have to tell you it is a liquid retina display. One of the most amazing LED displays ever shipped. They'll be shipping a month later. And that one is going to be less expensive, to the tune of starting at, I believe, $799. Were both of you a little bit confused? And are there little birdies just sort of tweeting in circles, cartoon-like, around your head, trying to keep all of these things straight in their features?
Mostly I'm confused why you keep calling it an iPhone X. It's a 10.
Because it's the letter X, okay? It's the letter X. If they wanted to call it the iPhone 10, see that was the iPhone was the iPhone 8 called the iPhone like VIII? It was not. It was called the iPhone 8. No, it was not.
So you don't call it the iPhone VIII. You call it an iPhone 8. This is the.
They wouldn't know if they wanted to be the iPhone 10. They would have had a 1 and a 0. They put an X, so they wanted me to call it the iPhone X. And also, X is cooler.
The best Star Wars movie is not Episode V. Andy,
Patrick Stewart does not play 5. Professor 10. He plays Professor what? X. I rest my case.
Okay. And what operating system does your computer run? Because it's not OS X, sweetie. I love you, Andy, but you're calling it an X, and it's killing me.
Well, I think that's the OS 10 is where this all came from, because we all knew that it was telling us that we were moving to Unix, and so it was like OS. So to us, it was like OS X, because it's like Linux, it's like Unix, it's like, and so all of us just kept on saying OS X. Not all of us, but many of us did, and it just seems silly to call it OS 10. I think that we've just never really gotten out of that habit of like when we see that. I know that they say 10, but we're going to just keep saying X. So,
but we have a. Okay,
it bugs me, and part of the reason that it bugs me is because like it never got broken from the OS 10 stuff. Back in the day. It's 10.14 now, and we still call it people like they're getting away from that by referring to everything by the code name so that they don't have to worry about is it OS X or OS 10. So the thing that I don't like about it is that all of a sudden we've got all these weird naming conventions that we didn't have before. And I don't mind that they want to come up with their own naming conventions, but don't spend 10 years giving me naming conventions and then burn them all down. That's the part that I'm sort of frustrated about. Like the last time we got an iPhone that came in colors, it ended in C. It was the same phone, but color, but the backs were colored. So if you bought one that was a different color, it was the 5C instead of the 5. All the other stuff was the same.
It's a mnemonic device. It's a handy mnemonic device.
Right, that too. So I was like, oh, so this is the 10C. No, it's an R. We're not going to tell you why we called it R because remember the S always used to stand for different stuff on the other phones. Like the S was for speed and the S was for Siri and the S was for other things. They always said like this one is the S model because it's got this other thing. And this time they're like, it's R and we're not going to tell you why. Like, it's just an R now. And we're going to call the other one 10S. And we're not going to have a 10S Plus. We've conditioned you for years that the big phone is the Plus, but no more. Like, now we're going to call it Max. But next year, like, are they going to have an iPhone 5? Or does everything start with an X now? Like, all of the rest of them are going to be 10 models from here forward. And we're never going to get an iPhone 9. Like, I mean, we never really got an 8 because it's actually the 7S, even though they put it out of its misery today. Overall, the thing about it that I don't like is that on top of the naming convention being super confusing, now additionally, we have the fact that they're selling 7 different models because they're still selling the 7 and the 8 and the 7 Plus and the 8 Plus. And now they've added the 10C and the new 10S and then the 10S Plus, even though that's not what they're calling them. So that takes us to 7 models of iPhone. So like when you walk in, it's going to be the dozen Android phones down one side and the dozen iPhones down the other side. And like that. Well, I think
that's part of, I actually think that is part of what Apple has to do is because they are one company serving. It's the same thing with Macs where you have to kind of cover the gamut is those Androids. A lot of them are by different manufacturers with different form factors. Now Samsung does a lot of different form factors as far as, how that goes. And so providing those is kind of giving that a community that doesn't have other choices, the theoretical choices that they want. I think Apple has to, manage the fact that there are some people that are going to want an iPhone that aren't going to want to spend $750 on one, with the fact that that's all they really want you to buy, $750 and up. Like that's they're being nice with the other ones, and those are very solid phones. I still use a 7, as my international phone, and it's a great phone. So I think that the price dropping down, the new R is 95% the quality of, or maybe 90% the quality of last year's top of the line model for $250 less.